by the City of Hamilton and temporarily archived on the City's website. Other individuals and the media may also be audibly and or visually recording this meeting. On February the 20th, Committee, 2014, Mr. Stephen Yull, the principal at Queen Victoria School, was at a meeting. He collapsed in front of his staff. The vice principal, Ms. Holly Shanlin, initiated CPR and used the automated external defibrillator, AED. She used it once and she used it successfully. When paramedics arrived, Mr. Yull had a pulse and was semi-conscious. Paramedics transported him to hospital, and paramedics service staff went to speak to Mr. Yull the next day. It's an incredible story, and to add to this, the school had received the automated external defibrillator unit only 4 months earlier, and were trained to use it 2 months prior to this incident. So it is my pleasure now to call Ms. Holly Shanlin to the podium to receive her certificate of recognition for her life-saving actions. And we're also pleased to recognize 2 individuals who provided their assistance. Please come to the podium as I call your names. Derek Walker, who assisted. Normally we call up the ward councillor, but that'd be me. So, Derek, congratulations. Thank you, Jesus. Phil Melke. And I'm also pleased as well to have Holly Shanlin here. Holly, good work. I'd like to call now Stephen Yull, the principal of Queen Victoria School, to the podium. I know Steve would love to say a few words. He's never short of saying a few words, at least when I've dealt with him. So today is no exception, and it's great to have a great principal in our inner city in our midst.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was asked to be brief, so I promise I will be. I really just want to thank the city for taking the time to recognize the life-saving efforts of Holly, Derek, and Phil. Without them, I wouldn't be here, and I will be spending the rest of my life trying to appropriately thank them for what they were able to do for me and for my family. Very clearly, every day that I have is a gift that they have given to me, and forever in their debt, and so grateful. For my family, for Sandra and Ryan and Kristen, who are also here, Holly, Derek, and Phil are our heroes, and they'll be in our hearts forever. So again, I just want to thank the city for taking the time to recognize the work that they did to make sure that I was able to be here today. The other piece of this is that the doctors were very clear with me that their efforts were one part of the equation. The AED was absolutely the other part of the equation, and that it really wouldn't have mattered what any individual would have done. It would have gotten to a point where I would have needed the AED at some point to save my life. And so absolutely, I know there are always budget concerns over things that are purchased, but I'm living proof that AEDs work, and I would definitely be an advocate and encourage AEDs to be in as many places as absolutely possible. Thank you once again for taking the time to recognize my heroes today. Thank you.
Very innovative school, Queen Victoria, and it's a contribution from all levels, all grades, all students, and a tremendously involved and engaged staff. I quite enjoy working with even the teachers with their parking problems, which, by the way, we solved this term of council. thanks to the good citizens of the neighborhood who said, yeah, you know, during the day while the teachers are teaching, there's plenty of parking over at Corktown, which is only a half a block away. But Principal Yall is extremely devoted to this community and the innovations. And so when he speaks to how it's important that this committee recognize, and while we do appreciate each and every budget line, when we can recognize that innovations can actually not only improve child's education, but save the principal's life. Hopefully we continue to support, like we have perhaps unlike any other municipality in the immediate area anyway, the use of these AEDs, these defibrillators, because this isn't the first time that we have here at Emergency Community Services seen proof to the success of those particular life-saving, innovative machines. So again, thank you to the staff, the lifesavers, to Principal Yall for all that he does in the Corktown community at Queen Vic, and to all of the committee members. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yes, Mr. Chair, there's an added delegation request from Mr. David Steckham of the Hamilton Veterans Committee. He wishes to speak to item 9.2, the veterans parking, and it would be appropriate if committee wishes to hear Mr. Steckham today to approve the motion after you approve the agenda as amended, and he would be added as item 6.2, and we need to waive the rules. And also, there is Councillor Marula will be moving a motion to his item 9.1, and copies have been distributed.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Moved by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Morrow. All in favor? That's carried. Declarations of interest. Seeing none. Motion now to approve the minutes of the March 24th, 2014 meeting. Moved by Councillor Partridge, seconded by Councillor Jackson. All in favor? That's carried. Members of committee, we do have that delegation request 4.1 for Mr. Matt Thompson wishing to address committee at the September 8th, 2014 meeting to report on the Beasley Residential Temperature Project. If it's the committee's pleasure, may I have a motion to approve the delegation request? It's moved by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Partridge. All in favor? Carried, and thanks to Matt in advance. That's a lot of work there. Members of committee, you have consent items 5.1 to 5.2 before you. May I have a motion to receive items 5.1 to 5.2? Moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor McHattie. All in favor? That's carried. Now I call upon Mr. Matt Jelly for his delegation respecting proposal of a series of reforms to the City of Hamilton zero tolerance policy for violence in recreational properties and or facilities.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to members of the committee. I'm going to keep my presentation brief today. I just wanted to start with, I'm dealing with the zero tolerance policy for violence in city rec centers. It's not a policy that I don't have kids that use the rec centers so often, and you might be able to tell I don't work out myself a whole lot, but I was made aware of some of the policies under our zero tolerance policy. I wanted to just review a couple of them that are pertinent to some of the other stuff I want to bring up in this presentation. But just from the summary of the zero tolerance policy for recreational facilities, the following activities will not be acceptable. Physical violence, loud continued verbal abuse of participants, referees, members of the public, which is deemed to be aggressive, intimidating, or having the objective of inciting violence. Physical vandalism to the building, refusal to exit the building or ice services in accordance with the rules as a means of disrupting activity or continuing to intimidate personnel. Any overt activity at intimidating, which can be seen as promoting or escalating potential situations. And for all of this behavior, the minimum suspension is 2 months for any transgressor. For vandalism, the charge would be twice the cost of repair for vandalism, minimum 2 months suspension. The definition of violence under that policy is includes, I'm going to leave out some of the stuff that's not as pertinent, but threats and attempt to intimidate and aggressive approaches to another individual. Again, the consequences for those behaviors is an immediate ejection from the property or facility and a mandatory suspension from all city recreational properties and facilities for a period of time not less than 2 months. 2 months is a minimum period only and may be extended by the city's Director of Culture and Recreation. Those individuals who are identified and suspended in accordance with this policy shall further be prohibited from holding any positions within the city's affiliated sports community for a period of 2 years. So pretty clear consequences for situations where violence arises between participants in a recreational facility. And I want to be clear. I actually think these are very good policies. I do think they make sense to me. The punishments are reasonable. However, I've always been a firm believer that we should hold all people and all citizens to the same standard equally, no matter who they are. I think this council serves as an example to the whole community, rather than just a collection of individuals. You are the representatives of the public at large and the diverse communities they inhabit. This council is made up of community leaders, people who ought to lead by example. For all of these reasons, I believe the zero tolerance policy for recreational centres, as well as all other similar policies in various departments throughout the city, should be revised to follow council's best practices. On February 27th, 2014, at approximately 10:45, an incident took place here at City Hall. A councillor, in a heated moment, assaulted a member of the public in part of the building open to everyone. This incident was captured on tape, witnessed by several people, and the councillor in question did not deny that the incident took place. Council, as well as the city manager, were well aware of this incident, but chose not to take action on the incident whatsoever. 2.5 months later, there appear to have been no consequences for this event. If the situation were reversed, if a citizen were to strike a councillor, ask yourself whether that would be the case, that there would be no consequences. Similarly, if a staffer had hit another staffer, or a member of the public had hit a staffer, or a councillor had hit a staffer, I think we all know that there wouldn't be no consequences. There might be some consequences. So. I'll keep my proposal short. I believe the zero tolerance policy for rec centres should be reworded as a conditional tolerance depending on who you are policy. If a citizen experiences violence at a City of Hamilton rec centre, there should be no consequences unless a complaint is filed with the City of Hamilton Integrity Commissioner. There will especially be no consequences if a former mayor appears on CHML to vouch for the individual in question. Instead of a 2-month suspension from city facilities, the transgressor in question will simply return to the facility the next day as if nothing happened. There is, of course, an alternative to these ridiculous suggestions. Perhaps council should enact a clear zero tolerance policy for itself and its members, so that members of the public and the press don't need to be unclear on what the policy is should another incident take place. This policy should be separate from the Integrity Commissioner process because incidents like these need to be addressed immediately rather than 6 months after the fact. If Hamilton is to be the best place in Canada to engage citizens, those citizens shouldn't be fearful that engaging in their municipality will lead to being potentially assaulted. Council has a responsibility to create and maintain a safe environment for everyone who walks through the doors. And I'm very critical of council at times, but I do generally hold you to a higher standard than children. Please enact a citywide zero tolerance policy that applies to all citizens equally, no matter who they are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Any questions? Move to receive. Moved by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Duval. All in favor? I need a motion to approve the delegation request from David. It stuck him, David? I didn't. I neglected to bring it up the top. Moved by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Partridge. All in favor? That's carried.
Live ammunition, high explosive weapons and materials in close contact with heavy equipment and does so day or night, often with little or no sleep. Okay? The next hat that we have here is a maroon beret. Take all of the above that I just mentioned, okay? The only difference being now is that to get to those locations, he does so via an aircraft and jumps out of it to get there. The next one that I'll bring to you is a blue beret, symbol of the United Nations. It's the hat of a UN peacekeeper. This person acts as a barrier between two groups in a conflict and hopes that these groups will remain civil and calm. Failing that, they attempt to remain safe themselves and ensure that the safety of non-combatants is utmost. And how well that works, you can ask Romeo Dallaire. The next one that I'll show you is an Air Force wedge. All right, this wedge is the hat of an aircraft technician. Okay, this person maintains all kinds of aircraft and all of the related equipment, including their weapon systems. Launches and recovers aircraft in all weather conditions, fixes and supports aircraft operations on land and at sea, often operates within 25 feet of open jet intakes and aircraft propellers, all of which in the blink of an eye can turn you into so much confetti. The next one that I'll show you, okay, is an Air Force beret. Same job as before. However, this person goes out into the boonies with the Army helicopters and also goes to sea and does the exact same job floating around on a ship. Now, any one of these jobs can be considered hazardous. All of these jobs also have civilian counterparts. A green beret, you can talk about police. They deal with loaded weapons and those type of situations where violence are involved. Maroon beret, the closest I could come up with was firefighters that jump into areas to fight these fires. The blue beret, you could possibly say the police and also some ambulance attendants. The Air Force wedge could be applicable to anybody who's an aircraft technician, baggage handlers, people who fuel aircraft. The Air Force beret, again the same, maybe just dealing with helicopter operations. But the point that I'm trying to bring across right now is that any of these jobs can be considered hazardous. But at any moment, the people that wear these hats right here can suddenly have the government of their Canada send them to some strange place in the world. And they trade all those hats in for one of these. And the main difference between this and this is that suddenly there is an entire team of people on the other side. Okay? All of these jobs are dangerous. All of them have civilian ones. But at the bequest of your government, you can go anywhere in the world, wear one of these, and there's a lot of people out there that are trying to kill and or maim you. Puts a whole different perspective on things. All right, now, one of the topics that was also discussed was abuse, okay, of parking. And we all know that with handicap parking and that, there's all kinds of abuse. All right, now, the fun thing that I found when I was asking questions about this is you would be surprised at how many people here in Hamilton already believe that veterans have free parking. They believe that it's in place already. Now, with that many people who actually believe that this is actually the policy, I'm surprised that I don't have neighbors coming down the street asking me to borrow my vehicle so they can go downtown shopping. I don't have my family members, my sister, my brother, my parents. None of those people are coming up and asking me to borrow my vehicle so they can go downtown for free parking. All right? Now, so if we were to ask who were the abusers, the only people that I could actually come up with is perhaps spouses. Now, ask yourself, are these people actually the abusers? All right? No soldier ever goes serving their country in isolation. They have parents, they have wives, they have children, they have all of these people. They have families that worry about them, care for them, and would never wish to see them hurt or killed. Okay? But these are the only people I can see that would be abusers of this situation. Now, there's one non-written rule in the military that spouses always hold a rank one higher than the serving member. Why would you think that we do that? Because those spouses hold the family together when the soldier is deployed. They deal with the family expenses, pay the bills, and often are working themselves to do it. They often think of themselves as single parents because their spouse is gone so long. Okay? They also allow the member to actually believe for a short while when they're home that they're actually in charge of the family. But they're also the people who dry the tears and explain away the fears of a worried son or daughter when news of what daddy's involved in hits the news. Now, Hamilton itself is unique. We are the only city in all of Canada that has a Veterans Committee. Okay, we're alone. There's none others like that in the country. So why was the Veterans Committee actually brought into being? Okay, are we just a bunch of old boys who are there to run your Remembrance Day parades for you so that we can give it some form of legitimacy? Or does the city actually care? Okay, as a city, we've committed tens of thousands of dollars to build a veterans place in the center of our downtown to honor the dead. What about all the living? All right, I hear this topic about parking and I wonder. Some would have you believe that this would be an incredible revenue loss. If that's the case, then why is it while I'm driving around, I see maybe 2 or 3 license plates like it in a week? You would think that by the revenue loss some people are talking about, every other car would have one of these. Right now, our federal government is taking away services from our veterans. They've started closing Veterans Affairs offices. They say that they can be better served through Service Canada, and yet those offices are closed before anyone at Services Canada was actually trained to do the jobs. Can you imagine what would happen if the military operated in the same manner? Oh, by the way, we're closing down the Air Force, but don't worry, we found a few people at Service Canada that can fly, and we'll train a few more. Friday, we celebrated a day of honor for some of the veterans we're talking about. How about we give something back to the living and not just the dead? Okay? We put in a Veterans Committee. Do we really care? Here's our opportunity to find out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Councillor Marula, you wish to move your motion forward at this time?
I think there are questions before, so I'll defer until the questions are asked.
Okay. Councillor Whitehead?
David,
Dave?
how long have you been on the Veterans Committee?
I'll turn us back on again. I've been there for about 3.5 years now.
So you'll be aware that there's been a lot of recommendations that come from the Veterans Committee that have been implemented as a result of them advising this council, and we do care as a result of implementing those policies.
We've had the downtown James Street dedicated to veterans. I've seen lots of opportunities that, how shall I put it, we can showcase, but nothing that actually affects individuals themselves. They can look at a street sign and say they care, but...
I guess the point I'm making is that we're the only city, as you indicated, across the country that has a Veterans Committee. We also have implemented many of the recommendations, I remember through Councillor Jackson and Councillor Morale, that came through that committee, and we were proud of implementing those priorities that were set by that particular committee. When we dealt with the parking issue in the past, again, it was vetted through the Veterans Committee of that day. Mm-hmm. So it struck me that when you box it that we don't care, I think that's an unfortunate comment because we do care, and because we may agree to disagree on one issue relative to all those other issues, I think it's just unfair to characterize it that way, and that's why I wanted to highlight that. The other piece is the federal government are the employers of the military, is that correct?
That is correct.
They compensate the military and vets, is that correct?
Yes, they do.
Not fairly, would be the argument. Is that, and that's how a lot of veterans feel, is that correct?
That is correct.
And we should be advocating the federal government to ensure that the substantive support or supports are there for our vets that's sadly lacking, such as the examples you cited. Would that be your position?
It would. The only thing that I would say is that the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. We are here, we are in place, and it would be nice if we could set the example And this is just one small example of it.
Okay, I just wanted to highlight that there's a lot of other roles this council can play in regards to advocating on behalf of the Vets Committee, and we have with the federal government. We can utilize our clout with AMO and Federation of Canadian Municipalities, again, to lobby the federal government and the importance and the significance of our vets and our individual communities across this country. And that is one of those roles. And I know that FCM, we have dealt with those issues as a result of resolutions that come through this council. So I just wanted to let you know this council is fully supportive and understand the challenges and the losses, the challenges of families within the veteran community, and we take that role very responsibly.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Jackson? Oh, sorry, Tom. Councillor Johnson, welcome to committee.
Thank you, and I'll defer to the committee members, and I'll speak at the end if you don't mind, please,
Councillor
sir.
Jackson?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Johnson. David, thank you for your presentation. My father, who was a veteran before he went home to be with his Lord, lost a kidney to a shrapnel during the Second World War, so I very much appreciate veterans. Question through you, Mr. Chairman, to David, just so that I'm clear, David, before Councillor Marula puts his motion, the essence of what you're saying is that a veteran, regardless of age, regardless of service, home or abroad, should be eligible for free parking with the City of Hamilton. Mr. Chairman, through you to David, just so that I'm clear, please.
That is clear.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Johnson?
Thank you, Councillor Farr, and thank you, committee, for letting me come into your meeting today. Through you, Chair, to David. David, when you're talking about all veterans, are you talking about every single one of them, or just the ones that have the license plate that is issued by the province of Ontario?
To be fair, I believe that it would have to be people with the license plate. There has to be some form of, we can't just have somebody say, oh, I'm a veteran, and away they go. The license plate symbolizes a veteran. They've gone through a process of applying for the plate. They've been approved in that by, through the Legion, and then by the provincial government given the plate.
Okay.
If a person wishes to get one of these plates and meets the criteria, then yes, by all means.
Thank you. So just to be clear, through you to Chair, they apply for this license plate. It has to be approved by the local Legion or the Legion that they're affiliated with, and it has to be approved by the provincial government before they're allotted this plate. This is not something that Grandpa can give grandson as an item in the will kind of thing. This is something that's directly given to the veteran.
Yeah. It's actually approved by the Legion National Council.
Sorry.
Okay, not by the local one. And the other thing about it is that the person who applies for this license plate, the vehicle has to be in their name. Okay, and so what happens is if the person does actually pass away, the vehicle gets transferred. It's my understanding, how well this is enforced, I don't know, but it's my understanding that when the plate is handed over to a next of kin, is sold, anything like that, it does not go with the plates as well. The plates must be changed.
Thank you. So that goes to you addressing the abuse situation, that it's not something that you put in the windshield. This is something that is attached to the car when the owner is finished with that car and they're no longer driving. That license plate now gets returned back.
That is correct.
Thank you.
I have a question. Can I pass the chair to you, Councillor Partridge?
Yes, absolutely.
Dave,
Go ahead.
roughly, do you know how many plates there are in Hamilton, right?
No, I'm sorry, I do not.
Give me a ballpark. The question is roughly, approximately, how many veterans' plates are in Hamilton?
Through Mr. Chairman, we wrote a number of reports on this. The last one we wrote was 2009. And in our reports, we had the number of people that would qualify for plates. We did not have the number of plates. We know that we issue 326 permits to veterans for parking privileges now, but we don't have the numbers on provincial plates.
Okay. And while I have you, thank you for all the hard work with our staff with respect to the GORE and the Veterans Committee and Councillor Morelli, obviously, prior, and to Councillor Marula, and I believe Councillor Johnson, who now sits on the Veterans Committee, Gordy Elms from the Mayor's Office, and other veterans who contributed greatly to this wonderful plan, our first of the 3 phases at GORE.
And Rob Pasuda.
And Councillor Pasuda. as it relates to Veterans Place. It's going to be phenomenal, and the construction starts very soon. So I appreciate that. I know it's off topic. It looks like you had something else to say to me, David, with relation to my first and only question through you, Chair, to David. What was that?
David, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I would like to point out is, and this might seem a little bit off topic, however, from the end of the Second World War in Korea through till about 1990, the definition of a veteran was somebody who served in World War I, World War II, and Korea. That was it. Now, we're talking about another 50, 60 years after that, where people like myself, the whole time that they were in the military, you were under the impression that you would never be a veteran. You may have served your country, you may have worn a uniform, but you would never qualify as a veteran because the definition was there. And they've been very successful. The reason I say that is because there's an entire generation like myself that never thought of themselves as veterans, who never went through the business of joining legions, who never went and got any of the license plates. Now, in the 1990s, okay, the Government of Canada changed that definition. And we have a young generation now of soldiers that not only have walked the walk, talked the talk, they've served in Afghanistan, they've done these things. They are veterans in every single way. Now, when you take all of the people who have served in the military and you use that as a number for a guiding light, I think you're, going way, way too high. Because there's a lot of people who I've served in, I've said to them, why didn't you get yourself license plates? Yeah, well, not really a vet. How long did you serve in the military? Well, 25 years. I said, if that does not qualify you to become a veteran, I don't know what does. Okay, you may never have fired a shot in anger. Okay, but every morning that you got up and you were wearing that uniform, you were fully prepared to have your government say, oh, by the way, you're going halfway around the world, and unfortunately, there's people who are going to be shooting at you. If that doesn't make them a veteran, I don't know what does. But that does not mean that every single solitary person who wears a uniform is going to suddenly run out and get themselves veterans plates. It just doesn't work that way.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Take the chair back. Any other questions?
Just before I do that, I'm always delighted to take over the chair, but Councillor Marula is the vice chair. I just wanted to make note of that, okay? Thank you.
Second time, Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you. I think there's two issues. So when you're opening up to anyone that served in the military, regardless of where they served, whether they were administrative offices in Ottawa or whether they're overseas, they all should get treated the same in the context of the parking. Is that my understanding?
If they've gone through the process of getting themselves the veterans plates for their vehicle, then absolutely.
My understanding is you indicated that anyone that served, I think the example you used, they served with the military for 25 years and they're a vet.
Are they a vet? They absolutely are, yes.
Okay,
and now with the new definition, they're recognized as such.
Fair enough. So I just want to make sure that, so basically this is opening up to anyone that served.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. The second piece is, are you aware of any other jurisdiction in Canada or anywhere else that opened up the policy to free parking in the community to this extent?
In all honesty, I've heard of it. Whether or not there's any proof to these rumors, if it be that, I don't know.
Okay, and when you talk about it, are you talking about, because I think in the report, Marty could speak to the report, there was another concern that we want to take care of the people that live and reside and raise their families in this community. So that's the resident component. So are you suggesting at this point that free parking would go beyond people that grew up, raised their families in this community and be completely wide open to the military regardless of where you live?
Yes, I do, because I don't honestly believe that there's any way of narrowing it down.
Thank you.
We've tried our business of the 60 years of age and the secondary, the stickers, and to me it just seems a little complicated.
Councillor Morrow.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm very sympathetic to the request here. I'm sure it can be dealt with in a full and satisfactory basis. I know that Sam and Bernie previously worked very hard on quite a few of these issues. and I want to support the efforts previously made and whatever might flow from today as well. I spent quite a few years as mayor being able to be with vets at ceremonies and wonderful events, and had a chance to meet firsthand so many of the heroes of our community and country. And later on was able to again meet with them as a federal judge in citizenship and immigration, where they would assist with the ceremonies welcoming the new citizens to our country, possibly the freest in the world because of people like the presenter here today and his comrades in the audience. I'm also the son of a World War II vet who was in London when the royal family came out on the balcony of Buckingham Palace at the end to celebrate the end of the war in Europe, and he then came home, and I was born the next year. So it's kind of inbred into our family, and along with many uncles and other relatives, both my in-laws served during World War II. And so I'm very proud of all that, and would like to be associated with progress on this front as well. Thank you.
Councillor McCaddy.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to thank David for the presentation. The way in which it was explained by David today is very different than I've heard it in the past, and it just really resonated with the different parts of the military, and how even though you haven't perhaps served, taken a shot in anger, I guess, in the way that David used the phrase, the service that the various forms of the Canadian Forces serve each and every year is in itself a huge commitment. And I was really taken by the reference to the families and what role the families have to play when the members of the family that are in the armed forces are away, either at war or serving another purpose within the armed forces elsewhere across Canada or perhaps internationally. So I know for me as one councillor, I feel differently about this issue, or more open to hearing more about Councillor Marula's motion than I did before David's presentation. It was a very powerful presentation for me personally, and I look forward to hearing Councillor Marula's motion, and I believe moving this issue ahead, opening up the license plates much more widely than they have been in the past. Thanks, David. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Brian, can you help Mary out there, please? Can you Mary at the door? And Councillor Duval for the first time, then Whitehead for the third time.
Thanks, Mike, and I appreciate you coming here to your presentation. And you know, I know this council, and there's many other people in the city of Hamilton and in this country have nothing but the utmost respect for our soldiers. That's for sure. Just a curious question, because I believe that anybody that's gone to war, when they come back home and has served, to me they should get everything free. I don't care. It just shows their bravery. But why is this an issue when I keep asking or seeing this come back forward every year? Why is it parking? I'm curious about that. Why? Not everybody owns a car, and some of our vets, but why wouldn't it be transportation from our bus services? Why is it just it's to one issue of parking?
I don't think it's just one small issue. To me, in the public, the veterans' license plates are a very visual and acknowledging thing. They recognize a person as having served their country. I know, having gone through the process, that they've been background checked to make sure that they're entitled to these. One of our past presidents of our committee ran into quite a difficulty in trying to get his, because he was a veteran of the British Army. And there's these license plates, and especially with being Ontario, is a very Canadian thing. Now, eventually he was granted these things, and at the time I did not have these plates, and he told me about it, said, you better get your butt out there and get these things now. I think because it's as I said before, one step in the journey of 1,000 miles. This is only one small increment. We're going to turn around and take any cause that we can find for veterans to make things better for them. I have a tendency to believe that down in the States, but on all levels of government, there's quite a bit more done for their veterans than there is in Canada. We're a lot more subdued. Britain is getting quite a bit more militant in some of its organizations and trying to promote veterans' issues. And again, I think this has all been brought to the light because of conflicts that they've been involved in. Here in Canada, the only explanation I have is that Canadians would much rather be a much more comfortable second place than to fight that much harder to become first, except on the battlefield. And when it comes to time to come home, they don't want to stick it in people's faces that they're, trying to be that much more militant. Again, like I said, if somebody else can come up with a cause that we can get behind to promote issues for veterans, then they'll have my support. To me, this is just one small step in the journey.
Okay, and I thank you for that. So my last question would be to you, is these special plates that are given, and I understand it's been signed off by the Legion, are they purchased, or is that your right to have them?
There is a $5 fee for the processing of the paperwork through the Legion. But once that paperwork is done, you go down to the License Bureau and you can trade these plates in, and there's no extra costs.
But you still have to pay for the plates, right?
Well, you pay for your plates regardless when it first starts, but...
That's my exact point. Have you looked for asking for these special plates and everything to have an exemption from even having a license plate?
No. No, all we are is asking for the parking. We're not talking, I don't know, $25, $30, whatever it costs for plates and everything else there right now. We're not asking for that. We're asking for a couple of dollars if they stop downtown.
Okay, thanks. Really appreciate it.
Councillor Whitehead.
Yeah, you did mention in your presentation about fire and police, and I was interested, and you made some of the comparisons with the berets and so forth you pulled out. And as a board member of the police services, the question would be, the municipality is actually directly related to fire and police. I mean, they are employees of the city. Vets are not. So would we now open the door in regards to recognizing veterans that serve in the capacity of police and fire for free parking on a go-forward basis?
You could possibly be opening the door, but that would be up to them to fight that battle, sir.
Councillor Marula, can you take the chair?
Sure, go ahead.
And just on the one small step, and I know we regularly take a look at your committee meetings and approve them accordingly, or receive them accordingly, at least here at Emergency Community Services. So is there an opportunity, maybe at an upcoming Veterans Committee meeting, for you to maybe list off the various other steps, the other you referenced in the States and in the UK, they seem to pay more attention municipally, I'm sure, is what you mean, and probably in a federal way as well. But the other things, in addition to parking, that the veterans may be interested in approaching this municipality with anyway. Through the chair.
Dave?
I'm sorry, are you asking me, you want us to...
I think he's suggesting that at the next Veterans Committee,
Yeah.
perhaps we should expand upon that notion
Mhm.
of how, and comparatively speaking, how other countries treat their vets versus Canadian.
Absolutely.
I would like to see it. I would, and just to get an idea of, to Councillor Duval's questions, why parking? This is just one element of many that you are all discussing amongst yourselves, and good on you. So I'd be interested in actually physically having a look at this this conversation. Just go down the list for us, and I'm not, at your leisure or when you're available to do that. That'd be great. I'll take the chair back, and Councillor Marula, it's you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Jackson. The staff be directed to investigate the implications to provide free parking at the City of Hamilton operated parking lots and on-street parking meters for all veterans with the Ontario Veterans License Plate, and report back to the Planning and Economic Development Committee and Emergency Services. And just quickly, just to give you a brief synopsis chronologically. This issue has been one that has been debated and worked on for at least a decade now. Having said that, I've always, from day one, been supportive of this endeavor, as was Councillor Morelli at the time. And we worked diligently with the members of council from those terms and staff to try to formulate a plan of action accordingly to ensure that we would pursue what is being asked for today. I'm more than willing, and as a result of Councillor Johnson having attended the Veterans Committee and bringing forward this concept again, I'm always more than willing to bring back issues that weren't successful fully at one time, but can always be. Even if it does take 10 years, there have been other issues, and I'm hoping that this time around that this can be succeeded, or we can succeed accordingly. I want to thank Dave for his presentation and those Veteran Committee members that are here today for their attendance. I think it's important as a city to recognize that this is an initiative that's coming from the veterans to us. So as a member of that committee, as I've said in the past, as council's appointment to that committee, I'm there to represent those veterans and the will of those veterans. And as a direct result, I proudly move what's before us, as I have in the past, and look forward to the report forthcoming. But I must say that I hope that council doesn't get cold feet once the report comes forward, because sometimes the numbers and some of the actual report data can sometimes be seen as a negative. But I'm hoping that the phantom sometimes impact is overlooked for what I believe is deserving, and that is that these veterans do receive free parking. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
And that's moved by yourself and seconded by Councillor Jackson. Moved to receive, by the way, David, thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Morrow. All in favor. Thank you for coming up, David. Appreciate that. And on the motion, Councillor Whitehead.
The intent of doing the due diligence. I know we had a significant debate a number of years ago on this issue. And, you know, circumstances changed, but I remember it was pretty significant cost on an annualized basis. Property taxpayers is a static system. We know the pressures that property taxpayers pay. We also know the federal government and the provincial government takes $2.8 billion from this community, and we only get 8 cents in services returned. So clearly, there's a deficit with our relationship with the other levels of government, and now we're taking on something that I believe the federal government has not done their work and treated them fairly in regards to, and I think Councillor Deval said it, I mean, parking is such an insignificant issue when you talk about many of the other services and, you know, and offices closing and programs for people that have challenges after going to Afghanistan, or was it post-traumatic disorder. When you take a look at what's happening, it seems that we are not giving our due to our veterans regardless. And I'll be the first one to say that we got to do more as a council to convince the decision makers to step to the plate and do what they need to do. So parking is such a small, insignificant piece. And to suggest that parking is where it stops, I mean, to me, we have many veterans that can't drive. So do we not have an obligation and responsibility to ensure that they're treated, even on the human rights, with equity, with dignity? And I believe we do have an obligation. So I really want to get to those people that don't have the means, and we need to provide those means, then, as opposed to dealing with people that have the means and then just want, you know, a free parking pass. Because to me, it's concerning that we have vets that may find themselves in situations that they don't have the financial capacity to deal with many of the issues and challenges they have. And I think we need to step up to the plate and do what we can to make sure that the ones in need are the ones getting all the attention. So I certainly support the due diligence. I support the report coming back and having a wholesome discussion and debate. Thank you.
Councillor Morrow. You received the presentation. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Councillor Marula, for bringing this forward. I think that it's, in my opinion, and it's a no-brainer. The provincial government's already done all the work for you. They're the ones that go through the criteria. They're the ones that issue the license plates. And there's no staffing for us that's involved. The system we have right now, the staff is involved. We have to hire people to take care of. The veteran needs to come down here, submit all their requirements, go through the criteria. The staff then issues a permit. The permit then goes on the dashboard. And that can be taken from car to car to car to car to car, just like our handicap stickers do and our handicap permits do. So there's no staffing involved. You look at the license plate, it's attached to the car, it stays with that veteran until that veteran no longer needs the car. Then the license plate is taken off. So there's no, in my opinion, as David said earlier, the abuse is minimal compared to some of the other permits that are out there. To me, this is a no-brainer. I want to thank Councillor Marula for bringing this forward. I think that it's wonderful. I think that we need to do this. I get an opportunity to speak at the Warplane Heritage every November the 11th. I started going out there with my dad 15 years ago. 200 people would show up. The only cameras in sight were the ones in our pockets. Now there's 5,000 people sitting there. It's being televised across the country. And people are now starting to understand what a veteran is. And in my opinion, a vet is a vet is a vet. It doesn't matter if they're 40 years old or 80 years old. They were the ones that did their time. So it's a no-brainer. There's the license plate. They get the free parking. That's the end of the subject. There's no staffing involved. So in fact, if anything, the current program we have now, as far as I'm concerned, costs us more money than if we just continue it on with just having the license plate alone. So thanks again, Councillor Marula. I really appreciate you bringing this forward, and I hope that this committee will support at least having the staff come back with a report on this.
Thank you. And Sam, would you take, or Councillor Marilla, would you please take the chair? I just want to, I think I'm going to be supportive. I'm looking forward. This is the first term of council for me, so I want to do my due diligence and try to comprehend why it's been a decade in the making. I'm also quite looking forward to the bucket list of other interests that are deserving veterans are interested in pursuing as in this municipality, and how it compares and contrasts to our neighbors to the south, and of course in the UK as referenced by David. That's something I would really like to see as well. I think maybe though it might have been in previous councils where this was obviously not successfully implemented, a question of revenue. And certainly if you're on planning and economic development, you know that under planning and economic development falls municipal law enforcement and our parking office. And certainly we're aware that that's a cost-neutral division that does well, but it's highly staffed, and it's the revenue from municipal parking that pays for the staffing to enforce the municipal parking. And if you're on planning and economic development, of course, you'll recall that we are at capacity on most of our, as it relates to downtown, our surface parking lots. We are at free available to you on Saturdays, all citizens, the meters, but the commercial or the city-run surface parking lots are at capacity. In fact, have waiting lists, I believe, on average of about 60 deep for the monthly passes. So there is a high demand, and it was, if you're on planning and economic development, an issue that we dealt with by avoiding any possible P3 partnership to build a garage, which a recent parking study told us we needed. In fact, there were 2 locations that I recollect where we were trying to identify in the core where we really need to tackle, if we're thinking ahead 5 years from now, in the downtown, this deficit as it relates to parking. So there are other issues. I'm sure those issues will be in the report. That's where we look forward to the report back that shows us the numbers. How many plates roughly are out there? How does it affect the revenue and the enforcement? And how does it relate to the current deficits that were clearly identified in at least the downtown area as it relates to parking, and the fact that the Planning and Economic Development Committee chose not to pursue in any way, shape, or form using taxpayers' money to accommodate the deficit that exists in the form of a garage or even a public public-private partnership. So to that end, I definitely am supportive of what's before us in terms of the motion from Councillor Marula, who's a longtime member of the Veterans Committee, and appreciate where it's coming from very much and appreciate all of the service from our veterans in this community and across this great nation. I'll take the chair back, and the motion's on the floor. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Back to item 7 now. I will call upon Jody Guillemette, the manager of the Early Years Program, and Debbie Myers, chair of the Best Start Network, for their presentation respecting Early Years Community Plan Implementation Strategy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We appreciate the opportunity to come and speak about the work that we've been doing in the community. Okay. I was like, what did I do? Okay. We wanted to present this report in partnership with the Best Start Network. And just to remind you, the Best Start Network has been around since 2005 when the ministry first announced the Best Start Initiative. The city, as the service system manager, works in partnership with the Best Start Network really to make sure that kids and families in Hamilton have access to all of the services and the supports that they truly do need. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be speaking about the Early Years Community Plan. This report was originally presented to you back in January of 2013, and it highlights some of the work that has been needed in the community. So between Deb and I, we're just going to start going back and forth through the presentation. This plan was developed in partnership between the city and the Best Start Network, and really it's the product of some broad community consultation that took place back in 2012. It really looked at what does the current state of our early years system here in Hamilton look like, what are some of the gaps in the services that we need, and how can we help to overcome some of those challenges. The plan includes both an environmental scan of what we currently have. It also includes the results of the community consultation, and it also provides an analysis of the findings and the recommendations. The importance of the Early Years Community Plan is really that it fits with the vision of the Best Start Network, and it fits with the vision of the City of Hamilton as well. So it supports our children. It's all about our children. It's all about our families. It's all about our communities and connections, and it's about our future. And it also supports making Hamilton the best place to raise a child.
When the steering committee for the child care plan started to look at the 12 challenges that were identified, they actually saw that they could be categorized into 4 main key themes. And those 4 themes were inclusion, child care stabilization and transformation, system integration, and access to information.
So we're going to talk about each of those 4 themes individually, and the first one is an inclusion. And really what that means, it's about making sure that all children have access to the services that they need, both children with special needs and children from diverse backgrounds as well. So from our Francophone community, from our Aboriginal community, and also from culturally different communities as well. One of the opportunities that we've taken is that we're conducting a special needs resourcing review. So it's really about addressing challenges, it's about solving problems, and it's about enhancing the current system that we have here in Hamilton. The next step of that review will also be looking at what supports are available to children that don't have special needs, however, do need some extra supports. And so we want to make sure that we're able to provide our early childhood educators with the supports that they need to really make sure that our children have access to the services that they require. And last but not least, we're looking at developing some culturally sensitivity training opportunities for our early childhood educators and all of the professionals that work within the early years system itself.
Second key theme was childcare stabilization and transformation. With the introduction of the full-day kindergarten, we know now that childcare programs are having to shift. They're changing now to looking at supporting children 0 to 3, as well as extended supports for children beyond the school days. So we have to keep in mind that we have to make sure not only that parents have access to those programs, but also that the programs are financially stable and sustainable. So we now have great opportunities with sort of several of the things that are happening in our Hamilton area. The Ministry of Education has changed the guidelines for the funding format. So we have an opportunity right now to look at the funding model that we're using in Hamilton. There's been broad consultation already looking at that model, and it's my understanding that in 2015 a report will be coming to Council looking at how are we going to fund and how are we going to use the dollars that are coming into the community. The other thing that we're looking at is the childcare fee subsidy waitlist strategy. Again, great consultation has gone on in the community, looking at how do we prioritize the families who are eligible for childcare subsidy and look at the wait lists that we're creating. So a report will be coming next month, looking at the outcomes of the broad consultation that was done in that area as well. The other feedback that came to us through this report was the need for strong communication between the City of Hamilton and the early years service providers. And there's been a great deal of work done over the last few years since we did this study. Ongoing communication, certainly, and broad-based communication and consultation, as I talked about. The city has met actually one-on-one with every childcare provider within our community to get feedback, to share information, but also to get feedback from the providers. On top of that, we now have a monthly or quarterly newsletter that comes out with giving us information. We have things such as an annual calendar that gives us the whole perspective on the sorts of funding models and reporting that will be happening. So again, strong communication makes it better for us as operators and better for the city to have clear expectations. The other component that we've instituted is an online registry for childcare programs. So now families can go online and actually register for the childcare program that they're interested in our community. It works well for parents, it works well for service providers, but it also gives us some data to start looking at what are the needs, what does an actual wait list, what's a realistic wait list for our community look like, and will help us then with planning as we move ahead in identifying where are the priorities and where are the needs actually in our community.
So the next theme is about system integration, and that's really looking at how can we work better together to make sure that all of our community partners are providing service in a way that is easy for our parents to access the services they require. One of the opportunities that we have is to take a look at our outcomes that we have for the Best Start network. So it's about really reviewing and refocusing the work that we've been doing. It's about re-examining our priorities and looking at the data to tell us whether or not we're making a difference. We're also in the process right now of creating an inventory of early year services. Here in Hamilton, we have just an enormous wealth of resources and supports that are available to our parents and our caregivers and our families and our children. And it's really about making sure that service providers understand what that system is and how can the families access the services that they need when they need it. And when I say warm transfer, and when I talk about parents accessing the services and service providers helping them, warm transfer means making sure that the service provider provides the parents or the caregivers with the supports that they need to be able to make a successful referral so that the child can actually receive the services that they need. And we're also exploring the possibility of developing an interactive tool that supports that inventory of the early years services that I previously mentioned, so that we have a way in which is very easy to update and to access by our service providers.
The other component that we identified was access to information. And we know that when families need information, they need it right away. They need it quickly. They need easy access to it. But we also need to ensure that it's accurate and current information. So as part of the subcommittee that was looking at how do we get information to parents, we recognize that most young families these days are using the internet. That was the source that they're using as far as gaining information. So we looked at our Best Start website and realized that we needed to revise it. So we have now a new revised Best Start website. official launch, and that will be coming out, but it's a very exciting, user-friendly component that will be available for families to actually find out information about multiple sites, as well as finding out about information that's currently available in Hamilton itself. We've been looking also at what are some of the financial resources that may be available to families that not everyone may be aware of. So our special needs subcommittee looked at developing an inventory of possible financial supports that are out there. So we ran a basic pilot in the Beasley neighborhood to look at training staff so they're aware of all of the financial supports that are available, and they worked with families in that neighborhood to help them develop an awareness around that. We're using the information from that short pilot that we did to look at gathering information from the parents as well as the staff to see how we can move that across the broader community. Tying in with that was a great experience with the Canada Learning Bond. This is one of the financial supports that are out there that not all families are aware of or are taking advantage of. So we did a pilot actually in the Gibson-Lansdale neighborhood, and there's going to be a report with more extensive information, but was a great experience with city staff from multiple departments, community partners, and even neighborhood financial institutions being there to ensure that families were actually able to access the $500 bond that they could be eligible for, along with the $100 each year up to $2,000 that a family could be accessing. So again, more detailed information will be coming to you in June on that. And the other component that we're continuing to work on is our Best Start magazine. This is an annual publication that goes out looking at information and current trends in the city of Hamilton, and it's actually one of those resources that's not time sensitive. It really has valuable information that can be used all year long. I've even found places that are using old magazines because of the articles, the information that are in it. The other component when I talked about accurate current information is it's important to recognize that we do want to have a system to look at what is the sort of material and information that we should be providing. So we have our early years research evaluation subcommittee of the Best Start Network that's looking at evidence-based material research projects to provide us with input into making decisions as we move ahead, whether it's with training programs or information that we're sharing with families.
So just to summarize, in terms of our next steps, we're going to be continuing to work with the community to find solutions so that we can continually improve the access to the services and resources that families have here in Hamilton. The plan that we currently have is good until 2016, and we're going to be looking at ways in which we can update and review and revise that plan beyond 2016. And while we're continuing with the planning process, we'll also be considering any new ministry initiatives that might be coming as well, just to ensure that the work that we're doing will in fact align in the future with any ministry initiatives that might be mandated for us to do. So that is our presentation today, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Councillor McCaddy.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks very much for the presentation. I remember when this program first came in, the Best Start program, and at that time, Hamilton was a leader. It was being offered across the province, but we really embraced it here in Hamilton, I think, and really fast forwarded or got off to a running start, I guess, at that point. Maybe that's the way to put it. And it's really gratifying to see how many years later now? Well, 9 years later, we're still leading and adding variations on the theme and innovations to the program 9 years later, building on the strong start that we had, strong start for the Best Start program that we had at the time. And I just wanted to recognize Paul Johnson here as well. Our Paul Johnson, back then he was Wesley's Paul Johnson, who took the lead on Best Start in the early days and helped get it started and has led to the fantastic program. I think clearly province leading program right across our Ontario, and Hamilton should be very proud. So thanks very much for really advancing the program. Appreciate it.
Councillor Whitehead.
I'm just trying to figure, is this the continuation and the evolution of the Best Start program? I remember being part of a committee with St. Joe's, McMaster University, the North End Clinic. There was funding that was provided by the provincial government. It was sort of a competitive piece. And I think basically, it was dealing with nutrition, low birth weight babies was the original premise for the Best Start program at that time. Is this sort of the evolution of this program? Help me understand, or is this a completely, I mean, it sounds similar, but yet.
Is it an evolution?
I think a part of what you may be thinking about was the Brighter Futures program that we were starting with, but we've had multiple initiatives that have actually come together nicely in Hamilton under the Best Start initiative. Absolutely. We had a variety of things happening in Hamilton that really did set the baseline for what the province came out with. And as usual, Hamilton was ahead of the game with visions of what we could be doing.
I remember there's a couple grants given out, but Hamilton, the program that we worked on in the committee was recognized, reported, and in fact, there was supplementary funding to initiate a pilot, again, for the good work of the community. And this really was a grassroots community with supports from those agencies I had identified. So this is great to see this evolution continue.
Councillor Morrow?
Yeah, I want to echo the comments of Councillor McCaddy and compliment the presenters here today. I'm very happy to see Gibson Lansdale high pointed and highlighted. That's great, and there's a lot of work to be done there, and I'm finding out a little more all the time about some of the good work that is being done, so thank you.
Okay, move to Councillor Duval.
Thanks, and thanks for the presentation. Just a question, on the City of Hamilton's childcare fee subsidy wait list strategy, is the list, how long is this list now?
Through the chair, I think there's approximately under 900 children on the wait list at this point in time for fee subsidy.
So the people that receive this subsidy, obviously they got to fill out papers, they're in financial need. It's just not given out to every person that was a child. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct. With the fee subsidy program, there's a ministry-mandated income test that is used to determine eligibility for fee subsidy straight across the province, and we follow those guidelines as well.
Okay, thanks for that information. Appreciate it, Mr. Chair.
General Manager Priel, did you want to make a comment?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, just briefly. For those of you, this is probably the first time that you've seen Jody at the microphone. You might know Debbie from her long-standing community work. You'll know that Jane Saldair retired, and then Grace Mader became Jane's replacement, just to put things into context for you. So Jody came to us to replace Grace when Grace stepped up. And Grace had been the lead just at that time about Best Start. But just so you know, we were very lucky to get Jody. She came to us very highly recommended from her previous position outside her municipality. She's got experience in both OW and childcare, etc. So we're lucky to have her, and she's done some fantastic work behind Grace and behind Jane in terms of bringing the early childhood new plan, or where we're at anyways in terms of our community consultation. But just so you might have missed it, but one of the most important things that we did is we consulted and made sure we consulted with every child care provider in the community when we developed this plan. So that was heavy lifting that the staff did, but a true example of how we collaborated in terms of the development of this plan. So it's just my opportunity to sort of formally welcome Jody to the team, and she's a great addition. We hope that she stays here. For sure.
Councillor Whitehead, thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Bell asked an interesting question, and this is a question relative to financing and capacity. We have 900 that currently cannot get subsidy on a waiting list. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
So what is our financial, because this puts things in perspective when we're talking about issues right across the spectrum and where our priorities are. So what kind of dollars would we need so that we can have proper, to get rid of that waiting list?
Through the chair, I'm really sorry. I don't have the answer to that question at this point in time. I'd certainly be willing to take that back and look into it. I've only been here for about 7 months, and I don't have that information.
I wouldn't mind seeing that number, because to me, it's about setting priorities, and to me, this would be a priority. Thank you.
I do believe that information is available. I just don't know what it is.
Motion to receive the presentation and the staff report, moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor McCaddy. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Moving on, may I suggest that we receive item 8.1, which contains recommendations from the Seniors Advisory Committee, and refer it to Vicky Woodcox. That's moved by Councillor Marula, seconded by Councillor Partridge. All in favor? And that's carried. With respect to items 8.2, yes, Councillor Marula.
On 8.2, Mr. Chairman, we just referred to 8.2, under item A, paragraph 2, it should be amended to read, reporting to to council through Emergency and Community Services Standing Committee. So if I could move that amendment accordingly, second by Councillor Morrow.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
On item A, second paragraph, where it reads, reporting to council, it should be included to read Emergency and Community Services through Emergency and Community Services Standing Committee.
Wonderful. And with that amendment, your seconder is?
Councillor Morrow.
And all in favor? Any opposed? Much appreciated. Madam Clerk, did you want to address Committee on 8.2? We're looking at right now items 8.2 through 8.4. Anna Bradford is in attendance to assist us if needed.
Actually, I'd like to speak on it too.
Oh, carry on then, and then I'll go to the clerk.
No problem.
My apologies.
No, not a problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, the revised mandate and membership for the Hamilton Veterans Committee went through a process of consultation, and as a direct result, it was concluded that we would include an additional member that would meet the criteria as it's indicated in the report itself, as a veteran or a current or former member of the Canadian Forces, a current or former member of the Canadian Forces Reserves, or meet the requirement of a member at large, which would bring the committee to 9. Some concerns about that from my perspective is the larger you make the committee, the more problematic it can be in getting quorum. Having said that, we've been pretty consistent on the quorum issue, and I presume that through the selection process, we'll make a decision that will be accommodating one that would attend regularly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else? Madam Clerk? You okay? Can I have a then, yeah, sorry. No other questions or discussions from 8.2 through 8.4? On 8.4 then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On A4, I do have a motion to amend the recommendation under A, and that should read as well after that, that council on behalf of Hamilton Veterans Committee, so it should read that council on behalf of Hamilton Veterans Committee, and that's seconded by Councillor Morrell.
All in favor of the amendment?
And if I could just briefly speak on this particular issue. This was an initiative that I brought forward at committee. In doing so, we were inviting the Minister of Veterans Affairs, but also over and above the participation of the reopening of the Veterans Place at Gore, I felt that it was necessary to engage the Minister on a number of issues locally, particularly those related to some of the legions and the financial issues surrounding the veterans organizations. In doing so, as you know, Mr. Chairman, we have a number of legions and service clubs that are experiencing financial difficulties as a result of dwindling numbers, and the notion is to try to have Hamilton become a city where a pilot project can be developed to see if there can be some sort of either in-kind scenario or a formula from a financial perspective to allow these service clubs and legions to become sustainable. In doing so, we can perhaps work collectively, locally, toward the unified front in partnership with both the federal and provincial governments, and also the city to some degree, in basically administering the program to amend or create a pilot project to see if it could be modeled throughout Canada. The problem exists from British Columbia to Newfoundland, and this problem's not going to go anywhere soon. There have been some closures of service clubs or legions throughout the country. I know locally they are indeed struggling, and they've vocalized their concerns to me, and as a direct result, as it reads in the recommendation from the Veterans Committee, which was endorsed unanimously, is that we work towards engaging the minister to ensure that we can put a plan of action together to try to protect the sustainability of these service clubs and legions in the future. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Councillor Whitehead.
I think I'm more curious about, and I think I heard there's a dwindling group, but does that mean then our military is smaller today than it was at the time that many of these clubs were formulated? What is the actual, is it just that, I mean, I got to think there's a lot of veterans, a lot of military people that are still within the ranks of the military, and are they just not participating with these clubs, and therefore it's the same thing as the arts community where, you know, the Opera Hamilton couldn't fill the seats, so therefore you couldn't keep Opera Hamilton going, so some of these clubs just cannot maintain the members, and therefore it's becoming very tough to sustain. I guess I'm trying to understand the core issue for that, and that's core issues, what we need to address to ensure that they are sustainable going forward. But I don't understand, at least at this point, I don't have understanding what the actual core issue is that's evolved to the situation we're facing. So I don't know if that's a study that is already done, or
that's the whole point.
Okay.
So
great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's 8.2 through 8.4 individually. Motion to approve the recommendations put forth by the Hamilton Veterans Committee on item 8.2 as amended, moved by Councillor Marula, seconded by Councillor Whitehead. All in favor? That's carried. On 8.3, a motion to approve the recommendations put forth by the Hamilton Veterans Committee in 8.3, moved by Councillor Whitehead and seconded by Councillor Partridge. All in favor? That's carried. On 8.4, a motion to approve the recommendations put forth by the Hamilton Veterans Committee on item 8.4 and as amended, moved by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Marula. All in favor? Carried. I'd like to take us back to 8.1. Councillor Jackson, who works closely with seniors and the Seniors Advisory Committee, was in consultation, still whispering some thoughts regarding the presentation, and I moved a little too quickly. So I'll just give you the floor, Councillor Jackson. We can easily reconsider. I think you have a good course of action here.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you for this and the indulgence of committee. I just wanted to make clear to just send this back to Vicki Woodcox. Vicki serves as a key resource to Seniors Advisory already. Items 1 and 2 about the elevator maintenance, vital services bylaw, and landlords and their properties. I need that to be referred to both the fire department, Chief Simons, and EMS Director Sanderson, because past bylaw MLE people have attended Seniors Advisory, Mr. Chairman, and have said that now elevator maintenance used to be covered under property standards bylaw, however, now falls under the guidelines of the fire department, building maintenance, etc. So, Mr. Chairman, on items 1 and 2 from 8.1, want to specifically refer them, General Manager Priel, to Chief Simons, Chief Sanderson, and number 3 is an HSR matter to Don Hall, all to eventually report back here. Thank you for allowing me those housekeepings, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Very good. So we don't need to move that accordingly. That's just direction. Thank you very much. 8.5, any questions or discussion with respect to item 8.5? Seeing none. Motion then to receive the report. It's moved by Councillor Whitehead and seconded by Councillor Partridge. All in favor? That's carried. Any questions or discussion on items 8.6? Move to, may I have a motion regarding the report? Moved by Councillor Partridge, seconded by Councillor Jackson. There is a recommendation here, so moved by Councillor Partridge, seconded by Councillor Jackson. And on the recommendation? Yes. Councillor Partridge.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I'm certainly always very supportive of any initiative that is going to help the plight of our homeless women who are on the street. But if I may, a question through you, sir, to our staff.
Please.
Do we keep any records? Do we have a way of tracking where the women are coming from? Like if they are within our city boundaries, if they're coming from outside our city boundaries? Just through you. Do we have any tracking on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. We do, in the application that is taken, ask what the previous municipality was, but it's often not completed because it's completed by the agencies and often in the midst of crisis, so it's not necessarily consistently completed. So we don't consider it to be particularly reliable.
Yeah, and absolutely, thank you. I appreciate that. The crisis, someone in crisis is certainly more important to ensure that they do have a bed and that they are looked after. But I just wanted to see if that's something that we do. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you. On that, and I've heard it before, and I know that, I can't remember the name of the woman from the Interval House, Claire had spoken at a conference and had indicated that other communities, when you look at their population and incident rates, we're not providing enough emergency shelters for women. And in fact, she also indicated that Hamilton was getting more than their fair share from other communities relative to our capacity to handle it. So I guess we really need, back to that old issue, what percentage of people coming into our community are utilizing our capacity to provide services for people that are actual residents of this community? Oh, no, it's a question.
Through the chair, we did in fact several months ago bring a report forward. In June of 2013, we did do a snapshot in time as far as the number of people from out of town who utilize our emergency shelter services. We do not do this on a regular basis, but we can certainly do it again so that we're keeping track.
Yeah, if I recall, if I can interrupt for a moment, if I recall, the youth, we were getting a fair significant amount coming from outside the community into our community. Percentage-wise, I think it was 25–30%. So what was it on the emergency woman shelters? Like, I don't remember seeing a number for that.
Information was there, Councillor, through the chair, but we don't recall at this point in time what that amount was. But I can certainly send that report or send that information to you.
Okay, and I think the issue is that these programs really need to be seamless, regardless of what community you live in. It's how the funding is arranged. That's always been my issue. So it's not about the fact they're coming from Oakville or Mississauga or wherever they're coming from. It's about who's funding the dollars. For example, here you're asking for $157,000. That's coming from the levy, or no, that's coming from reserve that has been fed from surplus or grants. Is that correct?
Through the chair, for this particular one-time payment, it is indeed from the levy, but I just want to emphasize generally, funding for the emergency shelter services comes from the Community Homelessness Prevention Initiative, which is 100% covered by the province.
Okay, so if they're covering 100% of the costs, then why do we need this money?
Through the chair, we have allocated the full amount of the Community Homelessness Prevention Initiative funding, which means that we had to turn to the reserve in this case. And certainly we can say that the need for services far outweighs the available funding that we do have from the province.
I appreciate that. So it's certainly something that we need to look at, but I think this is back to that roundtable with the greater regional communities that are impacted. To look at way and how we can fund a seamless program regardless of what community you're in. No one community should take the burden of others. It should be a shared responsibility financially, and the province needs to be at the plate. So those are my comments. Thank you.
All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. 8-7. Any questions on 8-7? Councillor Jackson.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Divisional Director Jack Brown. Jack, this is always an area as we try to always keep as many of our young people involved and our organizations using our facilities. And this is one where you want to tighten and somewhat further restrict those that may be in line for fee waiver approvals in the future. Just want to make sure as Divisional Director you're satisfied with this, question one. Question two, if we approve this today and Council ratifies, and if, depending on the feedback we get from organizations in our community that we bring to your attention, that you would be open-minded down the road. Mr. Chairman, that two-part question to Jack, please.
Through the chair, the answer to both questions is yes.
Okay, thanks very much, Jack. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Would you like to move it accordingly? Councillor Jackson? Who would like to move 8.7? Councillor Marula, seconded by Councillor McCaddy. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. On to motions. Councillor Marula, you have an amendment to your 9-1. That's the one respecting the urban fitness trail.
It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Jackson, that item 9.1, respecting urban fitness trail, be amended by deleting the words undertake an assessment to develop the first and inserting the words investigate the feasibility of developing and therein. B, by adding the following subsection B, the staff be further directed to brief the ward councillor on the investigative results and report back to committee on any proposed work plans budget as required to implement any new project. The amended item 9.1 to read as follows: whereas the City of Hamilton has significant parcel of land dormant in the McQuestion neighborhood, and whereas the McQuestion neighborhood is in the process of developing the first urban farm which conforms to better public health, community services, and neighborhood strategies to be the best place in Canada to raise a child, promote innovation, engage citizens, and provide diverse economic opportunities, and whereas the obesity issue as it pertains to public health is of concern, therefore be it resolved that A, the staff be directed to investigate the feasibility of developing an urban fitness trail in that parcel of land that would connect to the Red Hill Valley Trail, the Bruce Trail, and the Hamilton-Brantford Rail Trail, thereby providing an expansion on the city's existing trail system, which is second to none. And B, the staff be further directed to brief the ward councillor on investigative results and report back to committee on any proposed work plans, budget, as required to implement any new project. And just quickly, we've made significant grounds since 2007 in the McQuestion neighborhood. We have in that particular area, probably some of the most significant private and public investment, whether it be the first Lowe's in Canada, which is, by the way, the most successful Lowe's in Canada, on Barton and Woodward, the Princess Auto Brownfield redevelopment. We have the new park at Woodward and Brampton. We have the tens of millions of dollars investment in the water and sewer treatment plant, and the pedestrian bridge connecting Ward 4 to Ward 5. In this particular parcel of land, it's the old airport in the McQuestion neighborhood. It was an actual alternative site to the expressway and was actually at one point proposed to be the link to the QEW that would have been the alternative to the Red Hill Valley. In saying that, the parcel of land has now been identified as surplus from our perspective, but from a community perspective, we've been able to initiate the first urban farm, which will have over 100 beds of vegetation, which will not only serve the food banks locally, but also serve through sweat equity in the community, and also entrepreneurial programs to engage the community and others in the Eat Local campaign. So as a result of all of these successes, in conjunction with that, it would be wonderful to tie in an urban fitness trail, which, as mentioned in the motion, will tie into our significant trail system, which I'm incredibly proud of and is, I believe, second to none in the country. And in saying that is before us, I look forward to the staff's response with respect to the feasibility and the financial component associated with it. And I look forward to your support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
On the amendment, seconded by Councillor Jackson, Councillor Whitehead. All in favor? Any opposed? On the motion then now as amended. Moved by Councillor Marula, seconded by Councillor Jackson. All in favor? Any opposed? And it carries. Good luck, Councillor. Any notices of motion, since we did move the... I got all the motions, Peter? Yeah. Any notices? Seeing none? How about a motion to adjourn? Councillor Partridge, Councillor Marula, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, staff.